What is context in pragmatics? The study of language should not be limited to its structures, for example, phonology, lexis, syntax, etc. It should also include practical situations and conditions in which language can be used. This is because language is not only abstract but also it has a practical aspect which we experience in our day-to-day life. Context in pragmatics, therefore, refers to actual situations and circumstances surrounding the use of language. What this means in essence is that language is not produced in a vacuum and that at every point in time, whenever we use language, there are always situations that influence our use of language, ranging from the topic of discourse usually referred to as the field, the relationship that exists between interlocutors, tenor, as well as how the message is conveyed, mode. The focus on context in the field of linguistics sprang from the realization that language needs to be evaluated as a component of the social environment in which it is used. Just as language and culture are inseparable, the study of language cannot be complete without paying critical attention to the environment in which it is produced, as it plays a vital role in determining meaning. Context is at the center of pragmatics because while semantics focuses on the literal meaning of things, pragmatics focuses on meaning as derived from the context in which it is produced. Hence, pragmatics and semantics are not the same. Types of context. Physical/environmental context. This is the type of context that is derived from the physical environment in which language is produced. The setting both in time, when, and space, where, of a conversation can go a long way in determining the meaning associated with words produced in a conversation. Take for instance, if an army commander says, "strike," on a battlefield, the meaning of the word strike is different from when a referee gives the cue for a baseball player to hit the ball. It is the same word but its meaning changes as a result of the physical environment and conditions in which it is used. That is how the environment influences the meaning of a word. Context/linguistic context. Context or linguistic context is the type of context that is generated from the co-occurrence of words. It is a situation whereby meaning is generated from the coexistence of words. For instance, compare, "It is my turn to play with she couldn't turn on the fan." The meaning of turn in the previous text is different from that of the succeeding text, and this is because the words surrounding them contribute to the meaning they assume. Without the presence of on right next to turn in the second text, the meaning of turn would not indicate the process of switching an object on. Context is manifested in collocations. For example, the meaning of kicked in "he kicked the bucket" is totally different from its meaning in "he kicked the ball," and this is determined by the words it co-occurs with. Socio-cultural context. This is the type of context that stems from the cultural beliefs that a group of people share. Culture is the totality of values, customs and beliefs that a group of people share, which determines their interaction with the world as well as shapes their worldviews, and since language and culture are tightly knitted together, the meaning of words can be determined by the socio-cultural values of a group of people. For instance, in majority of Western countries, it is permissible for younger children to address adults by their first names, whereas in most third world countries it is not. For example, if a Nigerian child calls his uncle by name, for example, John, and he calls a Westerner by their name, say Hughes, the meaning of his utterance will be interpreted differently by both individuals, and this is as a result of the socio-cultural beliefs of both individuals which shape their interpretations of the text. In the case of the Nigerian uncle, their interpretation will be negative. Institutional context. This may be considered a subset of socio-cultural context, but it is important that it be treated as a separate category for better understanding. Institutional context, therefore, refers to context that derives meaning from institutions like schools, religious organizations, workplaces, etc. Every organization shares certain belief as well as knowledge of their fields, usually referred to as jargon, not slang, and these guide their interpretations of text or utterances. Take for example, a layman who is not familiar with the meaning of ICU would have a hard time interpreting the meaning of the text compared to medical practitioners, since it is a jargon in their field. Mental context. This is the type of context that we all experience in our day-to-day lives. The state or condition of our minds during conversations can determine how we respond and answer questions or generally make contributions to discourses. Take for instance, a merit list for students who successfully passed their entrance exams into high school was recently posted on a school's website, and all the students who sat for the exam hurriedly checked the site to know their standings. Students whose names were not uploaded on the merit list will tend to keep to themselves or contribute less than normal to conversations, which goes to show that the mental state of persons can influence the meaning associated with their utterances. For instance, you can tell if a customer is interested in your products or not, whether a person wants to go through with a health survey or not, as it will be exposed in their choice of words and facial expressions as well as gestures. Components of context in pragmatics. A number of factors play crucial roles in contributing to the context which determine the meaning of utterances according to J.R. Firth, namely, field, tenor, and mode. Field. Field deals with the topic of discourse. The subject matter or the main point of a conversation is known as the field of discourse. It is there, what, and why, of contextual meaning. For example, when men discourse Premier League, the field of discourse is football, and this determines their choice of words. Tenor. Tenor on the other hand is concerned with the role relationship that exists between the interlocutors. The relationship that exists between individuals plays an important role in determining their choice of words in discourse and interactions. For instance, your choice of words when speaking to your parents will differ from those you use when speaking with your peers. Mode. Last on the least but not the least is mode. This is the last component, and it draws from the providence of the first two. While the field of discourse can influence the choice of words in a conversation, the tenor of discourse determines the choice of words considering the relationship between the interlocutors, and it all boils down to the medium through which communication will be carried out. While formal words are used by lawyers in courts, informal words are used by students in schools, and this is influenced by their field and tenor of discourse. Part of understanding language requires its evaluation in practical situations, considering the circumstances in which it is used. This is the goal of pragmatics. There are a number of contexts that can be used to determine the meaning of utterances, such as physical, linguistic, sociocultural, institutional, and mental contexts. A careful consideration of these contexts will guide you in deciphering the meaning of utterances more accurately compared to assessment of their literal meanings. See you soon.